Hey guys, welcome to Podcast Fandom Premium. I'm your host, Nina.
I'm Donald.
I'm Kaylee.
You weren't ready,
I was
were you?
in the middle of saying something.
At the corner of my eye, I just saw her react, and I was like, oh shit, she wasn't ready. But I was just talking, so I kept going.
Keep going.
We are here to talk about Extraordinary. Okay, sorry, our dog started losing his shit. We're going to be talking about Extraordinary Attorney Woo, and we're going to be talking about episodes 9 and 10. Episode 9 is the Pied Piper, and episode 10 is Holding Hands Can Wait. So, I was so sad to stop because the next episode, I love it so much. But these are good too. And after... What's wrong with you?
I'm thinking, I don't remember how that last episode ends. Or at least not how the case ends.
Okay, so you were saying you don't remember how the last case ended.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the part where they were like, we were going to jail.
Yeah.
And is that it? He just went to jail?
He just goes to jail.
Yeah.
And she cries.
Okay.
But I was going to say, the prior two episodes, the two-parter, about Sotoktung.
Town?
Yes. They, that episode had so many twists and revelations and stuff, so this was kind of nice, because it was just the two cases, and, hey, cut it. And, Nico, I swear to Christ, Nico, stop. And the growing relationship between Junho and Woo.
Mm-hmm.
So it was nice to just focus on those things, the cases and that. Overall thoughts before we talk about the details? Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Oh, okay.
Since he's over here attacking me. I like both of them. They were just, like you said, very just simple cases, but they're interesting cases. And they also, I think every case, at least these two specifically, are very personal to Wu also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting.
Go ahead, Kaylee, you can go before I say this.
I remember when that first episode started, and it opened. It's just, I gotta get used to these episodes starting with the case itself.
Yeah.
And it's every time it does that, I'm just like, this is a weird case, and I can't imagine Wu taking it on and actually defending this person. But,
right.
But then she does.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, this guy kidnapped a bunch of kids.
Yes.
And like, oh, like, he didn't have bad intentions, but
right.
That's still a weird thing to do.
But you know what? That's the thing about law, is that, especially when you're a defense attorney, everyone is entitled to a defense. Mm-hmm. Like, even if you did it, you're entitled to a defense in court. And the defense is supposed to get you the proper sentence, the proper punishment. So it's always weird when you see people being defended for things that they clearly did. I'm not talking about ambiguous things, right, where there were no witnesses. But, like, something they clearly did and they admitted to doing. And then the job of the defense attorney is not necessarily to get them off and leave them unpunished, but to make sure that whether or not they get punished in the end, the process to decide that is fair. Like, that's their job, is to make sure you get to that verdict fairly and that they are defended properly. And so that may mean, listen, he had good intentions, so no, we don't want to send him to jail for 40 years for kidnapping. Maybe let's be a little bit more reasonable about this. So it's not necessarily trying to get them out, but that's what I think is, what I've always thought is really interesting about practicing law, particularly being a defense attorney, like, to try to remember that it's not about all the time guilt or innocence, but, like, fairness.
I mean, I think every case we've seen so far, I think there's only been one that didn't get punished. I think all of them, it got punished.
Or that she won, right?
Right.
Yeah. Because even the
very first case, I think she still got.
Oh, she won. Yeah, that's what she wanted. They
Right.
wanted that woman to not be charged with the crime that she was,
Right.
the felony, so that she could inherit her husband's stuff after he died.
But then there's some that, like, instead of going to prison, they just get probation. But they're still.
But that's
still
a win.
Getting punished. Right.
Yes,
But they're still.
But
getting
she's still
punished.
getting punished. The second case, they technically lost, but they,
Right.
if you remember, because the daughter withdrew, because that's where they fucked up. The father paid for the wedding. He should have made himself the plaintiff,
Right.
suing the hotel, because then he could have just seen it through. But because the daughter was the plaintiff, and she withdrew, they technically lost. But because it wasn't a criminal case, the firm didn't really lose because they had to get paid regardless. So the man paid them, plus he had given them all that additional business. Right. So
ATM one they lost, but that was the
they needed
guy,
to lose that one.
and the guy wanted to, like, he had no intention of winning anything.
So, I forgot what I was. Oh, so what I like about this show, one of the things I like about it, I think I mentioned it before, is how it's not just, because it's not a typical, like, romantic K-drama, and it's not even a typical, like, dramatic K-drama in, well, the typical ones we've seen where it's just, like, a lot of murder, rape, serial killer, that type of drama. With this, I like that it's not just highlighting a person on the spectrum and opening up conversations about that for people who may not have experience with or understand what it means to be on the spectrum, but also the way it highlights parts of Korean society in a way that is, like, challenging and questioning things. Like the Pied Piper episode, that was all about the very strict, and like, I think when I first started learning about aspects of Korean culture, I had the same reaction Donnie did. But now I'm kind of, like, used to the way things are, discussing the way things are over there in some regards. So it was interesting watching Donnie's reaction to the Pied Piper episode, because he was like, they're still at school, it's 9 o'clock. And they're like, yeah, that's the problem. Yeah. So, all right, so you're ready to talk about these episodes?
Yeah.
I think it'll go fairly quickly because, again, it wasn't like a huge, it wasn't like a lot of detailed plot going on like in the last two episodes. But as Kaylee mentioned, the first episode, The Pied Piper, is a young man who basically is like, who wants to get kidnapped? And them kids were like, yeah. But yeah, he takes a bus full of, and so if you notice, right, those kids were getting out of school. Like, their school day was over.
I think they were starting school.
No,
they were getting out of regular school.
Oh,
right?
and to go to the special.
They were going to cram school. So if you look on the side, I forget what the name of it was, but the last word was Hagwon, and that's private academy in Korea. So when you, and the reason I started learning about all of this is because, again, originally I thought I would go teach. And I was like, the difference between a Hagwon, which is a private academy, and public school. And so in Korea, the government, the Department of Education, they have a specific program where they work with companies like Epic to, it is Epic. I thought maybe I said it wrong. To bring English-speaking teachers to Korea to teach under contracts. But it's still really weird because they only want English-speaking teachers from certain countries like America, Australia, Canada, some countries in Africa. But like everywhere, it's weird because there are Asian folks who are not Korean, like let's say a Japanese girl or Filipino who was raised in like America or Canada. English is their first language. But there are Hagwons, which is private academies, where the parents get a lot of say. They don't want their kids learning, they prefer them to learn English from white people. Isn't that crazy? That's how anti-blackness and racism and xenophobia works. That for some reason, in the world, white supremacy has made it so that the assumption is that white is always better, more knowledgeable, and all of that. So it's ridiculous. But anyway, so they leave school and then they go to what they call cram schools, Hagwons. They just go because the parents are obsessed with good grades. But beyond that, it's like in Korea, when you apply for jobs, your CV or your resume has your picture on it. We don't do that here because that's a very easy way for people to discriminate. You know, for a man to look at resumes and be like, oh, she's hot, I'll hire her. Or anybody look and be like, they're black, I'm not going to hire them. And one of the things we have an issue with is names. So you'll hear a lot of people, Asian folks, Spanish folks, changing their names. For instance, no one's exempt for this. Martin Sheen, famous white actor, he's actually, is it Mexican? So he has two sons who are also actors. Martin Sheen is son Charlie Sheen, but his other son is Emilio Estevez.
Isn't the guy from Psych? Did he come around?
Yes, the guy from Psych, the main guy, I forget his name right now. But also he, for a long time, used a different name to get, and they told, and he said it. He was like, my agent was like, you'll get more work because you look white if you have a white name. So you have stuff like that here where you see a resume and it's like Shaniqua, and they're like, that's a black girl we're not hiring, you know, that type of thing. But in Korea, it's harder, I think, because they have the resume with the photo, and then everything is listed, and that stuff is important. How many, your education level, how much studying you did, how much extracurricular stuff you did, all of that is important. But the problem, though, I think the big problem, and it's not like we don't have it here, because we do, but we're bigger. I think it's more impactful because it's a smaller country, is that they're trying to get into like the 3 big universities, whereas here, we may have dozens that people consider. It's like, so you have a smaller group of people vying for, trying to find a spot in the same small pools. And then it's about like connections and stuff too, which we see play out in the next episode. So that is like the premise, is that these kids are leaving school to go to more school to study. And this guy takes them to a mountain instead to play. Later we see what were they doing? Eating sweet potato. Donnie was like, what's that? That's big in Korea. And I was in the streets. Like,
it is so weird because I forgot that that's like only big there. So I was like, how does he not know what that is? I thought it was just common knowledge.
Oh my God. You know what, you guys? There are times when we're watching and I forget that he doesn't know Korean or he doesn't know Hangul, because I know you do.
Yeah.
So when I see things that, like in the previous episode when they had the umbrellas with the company name on it, like the mom, Sumi, like her last name is Taeson, and the way they had Taeson written, and I was going to say something, but I was like, he don't know. He don't understand it. He's actually looking at Taeson right there. But yeah, the potatoes are big. I don't.
You eat them. They wrap them in foil.
They wrap them in foil and roast them, and then just eat them like you eat
like corn on a cob.
Like corn on a cob. Yeah.
They peel it.
They peel enough to like eat inside of it. Yeah, and then like a banana.
Yeah.
But I don't like sweet potato like that.
I don't either.
Like I can't imagine that.
I don't like sweet potato at all.
But like people have like Megan loved her some sweet potato fries, and I was like, I don't know, just give me regular ass fries. So anyway, what else? I'm sorry, I feel like I cut one of y'all off.
No, they were just up there eating and playing, and having to go there all the time, finding acorns.
Yes, that's right. I've forgotten about that until we watched it again. So they end up taking the case because he gets arrested, obviously. He had these kids out there for like 4 hours. And what's interesting, the parents didn't know that they were missing because they were supposed to be at the cram school. Yeah. It's only because the bus driver woke up. He had spiked them. And he called the police. And they were just coming down the mountain. Hi ho, hi ho.
Carrying all their bags.
Yeah. So she takes the case, or the Hanbara takes the case, because the owner of the private school, it's her son that kidnapped. And it's the only reason the driver even like accepted the drink from him, but because it was his boss's son, right? So we find out that the kids are basically being, I'm gonna say mistreated. I feel, is that too harsh?
They're being overworked.
Okay, that's maybe a better way. One girl, they
And
go.
I want to say, like, they're not even aware that they're being overworked.
No.
They just see it as it's normal.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Even when people talk about it, like the woman who worked in the convenience store, where it took her a minute to kind of warm up to talk about how shitty this is. Like at first she was just like, remember, so they were going to go interview the kids, and Junho and Woo goes to the convenience store where apparently a lot of the kids, they're told by another kid, go to after cram class to eat.
They go at 9 o'clock at night.
Oh my God. But when they go in there, and the woman at first is just like, they're like, is this where the kids from the so-and-so school come? She's like, yeah. And then they come in and they're like rushing because they only have 20 minutes or so to eat before they have to go somewhere else.
Home?
Were they going home?
I thought they had to study or something.
I thought they were going somewhere
Probably
else.
to study, but then also...
And how old would you say these kids are? Because I think that's important too. This is not like high school kids.
No, these are
elementary school.
Right.
Middle school.
Yeah,
Right.
middle school. Yeah.
And so...
You're talking about like 10-year-old kids.
Yeah. And so all they're eating is the woman points out that they are, this is where I would say mistreated.
They're just eating
The pressure they're put on is they're being overworked, but this is, I think they're being mistreated because I don't know that the parents know that this is what their kids are doing. Like, I'm sure they know that they're getting food from the convenience mart and they're, I'm sure they're aware of that aspect of it. But when she says things like they decide on what to drink by the caffeine level.
Yeah.
So I don't know that, to me, if a parent doesn't know that, that's a problem.
These were
if a
10-year-old
parent
kids
knows
getting
it,
coffee. Like they were
that's a problem. That's mistreatment.
Right,
to me.
these were 10-year-old kids getting coffee. Like they said they drink coffee, and I said, like, I couldn't imagine being 10 years old
No
and
sleep.
drinking coffee.
No sleep, no food, unhealthy food.
Like fucking.
So they decide to I don't know if you guys caught this, but the woman who opened the Hagwon, the Pied Piper's mother. Oh, and his name, I forgot to write it down, but it's like the Korean word for fart. He legally changed his name to the Korean name for fart because
It was funny.
it was funny, and he wanted a name that makes kids laugh and smile. The mom, one of the ways that she got people to enroll their kids in her school was the fact that she was a single mother who raised 3 kids who went to, I think, Seoul National University, one of the big 3. And so she ends up sitting down. Did you guys notice that when the mom, the head of the Hagwon, I wish I wrote her name down, I'm sorry, is pleading to, basically they wanted to get the other parents to sign something to say don't punish him so harshly.
Yeah.
It was only mothers.
Yep.
Where were the fathers? Are they just not involved?
I guess they
that would
just see it
say
as a
they're not
mother's job to look after their kids' education. I don't know.
That's how I took it. Is the fathers? These were wealthy families.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
The fathers were they're out there being lawyers and doctors and stuff, and these women were just stay at home, take care of the
Well, yeah, because
the
you
house
do
type
get
of
that
thing.
later when they want to come up with a reason to have the kids be in the courtroom when he's
Yeah.
sentenced, and they have to present it to the parents as this will help them get into law school. These kids are like 11. And then it was like, we'll take them and bring them home. And the mother was like, oh, okay. Like, as long as somebody else is doing the chaperoning and they didn't give a shit. I like when they did interview one of the kids and they were basically like, do you want him to go to jail? And they didn't answer because the one girl's mom was picking him up. And he goes back and he whispers something to Woo, and later he says, I want to be liberated. These poor babies. Anyway, so in the courtroom, Woo ends up putting the academy on blast and saying like how the kids were treated. And when given an opportunity, the Pied Piper is like, I'm not sorry I did it, and I'd do it again. And they're like, Jesus Christ.
like every time they're trying to defend him, and oh no, you can't, like even spiking the bus driver's drink, and he's like, no, I did. It was just like, Yes,
So
I did it. I took the kids and I did this, I did that.
And he, what is the Children's Liberation Army? Like that is what he runs. That's his job, and he's the captain of it or whatever. So in the courtroom, Wu stood up and said all of that stuff about the school's treatment without the other attorneys knowing she was going to do that. And so then when they get out in the hallway, Quan says to the boss, aren't you going to punish her? And he's like, I'll say something to her. And he was like, he wants her to be punished. And he was like, Young Suk was like, that's not how I operate. And if you have a problem with a coworker, you should talk to them and figure it out. And don't go posting things on bulletin boards. They were like, oh shit. He knows. Everybody knows it was you. Well, no, they knew it was him because she called him out in front of the boss. That's right. Soo Young did. Because everybody was reading it, including the boss last time. Right. That's right. Okay. So, and it's his idea, the Pied Piper, to have the kids there because he's like, I'm going to go to jail, but I want them to see that that I'm not sorry for what I did. Because his thinking was, they will see me getting punished and think they're not supposed to have fun. Like they will take this as an indictment of what I was trying to do for them, and I want them to see that I still believe that they deserve to be children. And so in the courtroom, they recite the rules. Number 1, they'll have fun immediately. They'll be happy. It's just so sweet. Yeah, happy and healthy. And they hug him, and it's just really, really sweet. I want to say that when they pick the kids up to take them to the court, they're like, what are your names? And Wu is Wu Woodpecker Booger. And Junho is Lee Butthole. Quan is Poop. And the boss is Jung Fart Tart. So the personal stuff in this episode was Wu trying to figure out how you treat people when you like them romantically, and she of course gets all of this advice about not letting, it's like advice that guys give.
It's open the door. And
don't let them walk on the outside, the curb side of the street when you're walking.
Pull out their chair for them, carry their stuff.
It's the stuff you normally see a man do.
So she starts doing all of this stuff, and it makes Junho uncomfortable. And he's like, why are you doing this finally? And she says, because I like you.
But he doesn't say anything.
Well, we don't... No, he tells her he likes her too, and that's how it ends. And we don't see how it ends. He finally runs outside.
Okay, that's right.
Or he runs to her, that's right. Because he was... He was talking to... He was home, right?
Yes, he was at home talking to the other attorney when he realized, like...
Right.
He was saying stuff like... He was kind of scared to start the relationship because he wasn't sure if he was committed enough.
Right.
And Quan, not knowing who he's talking about, was like, do you plan on breaking up with her? And he's like, no! Well, then go, idiot! And he literally goes, and then he starts taking his food after he leaves.
That's right.
I did, like, in this whole case, I like the fact that you pick up on that the guy they're defending, like, it's really personal between him and his mother, because this whole thing is, this guy's very successful, he went to school, he graduated, all this stuff, but in that process he realized, hey, I didn't have a childhood because I was this kid that went to school 12 hours a day and didn't get no fun and stuff like that, and he didn't want these kids to go through what he went through. And you pick up on the mother, it's like she gets that by the end of this case. Right.
And it's interesting because she is kind of humbled when she's asking the women to go easy on her son, and they're like, you're the one who bragged that all 3 of your sons went to, and it's like, are we supposed to believe that your sons didn't go through, you know what I mean? Like, you don't get into these schools by just doing the bare minimum.
Right. And in a way, I think even you see this in all societies, and you'll see it. I think you see this a lot in America with sports. And I grew up with knowing people that their parents would have them get out of school, go to like 3 different sports all night long. Like they would not. That was their fun. It was learning a sport and having to be good at it because, in a way, I think the parents wanted them to be this. You see, because parents see it maybe a dream that they didn't have, or they just see like the millions of dollars these athletes are making, and they want that for their kids. And you see that a lot with parents and putting their kids through sports, and the same process is no different there than putting your kids through school because you want them to be successful.
Yep. So the kind of stinger scene is Wu's mother, Sumi, visiting the Kimbap shop. And that reporter taking pictures of her entering outside.
I like how it doesn't show us that in the second episode.
No, until the end.
Yeah.
And I had forgotten.
No, I mean the reporter being there. He wasn't.
No, but then you see the reporter the next episode, and it's supposed to be after this.
Yeah.
Talking to Kwon and stuff. So.
Yeah, but I like how it didn't show us his reaction to watching the dad freak out in the store.
Right, we don't know how much he saw. I would assume he stood there for the whole thing.
Because you pointed out his car.
His car was like right across the street, but they don't show us him in the car.
I just don't know how this photographer put all that he put that together pretty quickly.
Yeah, it was weird that he automatically connected Wu being her daughter after seeing her visit this shop.
I think, that is I think it's because we're supposed to, or at least the way I took it, is that this kind of out of wedlock child rumor is like a
big,
like a well-known secret type thing.
Right.
Kind of like House of the Dragon.
Like a celebrity.
Where everybody's looking at Rhaenyra's babies and then like laying around the daddy of them babies.
But
but like nobody talks about it type thing. And now that she's going to the Minister of Justice, like we see it with the Supreme Court Justice, where it's like there's questions and things, but then the moment they become an official candidate for a political office or something, then that stuff has to be investigated. And so I think that's it, that they were already, like the one guy earlier in the season who went to her and said, so far things looking okay, but there's this rumor that some people keep whispering about, and we just need you to tell us that there's nothing there. And she doubled down. It was like, there's nothing there. So other people have already been whispering. And I guess it's just the fact that because he didn't make the connection until he saw the name of the Kimbap place. And because he had met Wu earlier that day, the journalist, he was just like, that's weird. That's suspicious. And I guess he made the leap because of that. Because it's like, if you're only following her, but think about it though. If you're only following her to get information on if she has an illegitimate 27-year-old kid, right? And then you see her visiting at night off, and that was the other thing. It was
after hours.
And it was off of her, because people...
She didn't have a driver or anyone.
It wasn't on her official schedule.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Like with politicians, they have an official thing that shows who they've been meeting with for transparency. So she just went and did something off the record. And so I think that's what we're supposed to think that he got it.
And I guess if he did the math, like he would only lose 20.
Yeah. Okay, so episode 10, Holding Hands Can Wait. Wu witnesses an emergency arrest on the train and butts in. And she's like, y'all can't arrest him without going through the proper steps. And so they're like, fine, big brain. And they go through the proper steps. And she's like, yeah, but you still got to tell him what he's being arrested for. And they're like, rape of a person with disabilities. And she's like, I should learn to mind my business. I should just mind my damn business. And they call it quasi-rape, which I wonder if that's just like a really fucked up translation. Because quasi is like... kind of like right, like not fake, but like kind of like the real thing but not, and it's either rape or not. And so I think it might be kind of like how we call it acquaintance rape, because I think traditionally people thought rape had to be a stranger, and then you learn no, people can take away your consent, people that know you, and that women are routinely raped by people they know.
I saw it as her just kind of being like tricked into it. Like,
That's what I
She
mean.
didn't
Like,
really want to do it, but she was manipulated.
And that's how
And that's
that was the adult case. Like that was the.
So I guess that's why they used that term.
but what I'm saying is, I wonder if it's one of those things with the translation where whoever translated it picked the word quasi, because that's not a word we would use in English. Because in quasi, it gives the in English, it's like fake. And we don't call rape fake when we're charging people with rape. Like, that defeats the whole purpose. So that's what I mean. I think it's an interesting, like in Korean, I wonder what the word is and what the definition is, because I'd be very surprised if it's quasi, which in itself is just a prefix. It's not even a word. So anyway, did you catch when they were telling the boss about the case? And he's like, how did you even find this? It's so interesting. And she said it was on a train.
No, he said that. He was like...
No, yeah, he asked because it was interesting. And she said, on the train. She says, I saw them.
He said, where did you pick up this case? And she said,
on the train. And then he was
oh,
like...
that's right. And then he's
which
like,
train,
oh,
too?
did you tell them you must have
He's
told
like,
them.
let me guess. You were just showing off.
Tell them you're a lawyer.
And she was like, maybe that's how it happened. So, they end up taking the case because you know how Wu is when she introduces herself, and she said the law firm she works for. So when the guy got arrested, he begged his parents to hire her to represent him.
And it was pretty... And I think because they had the option of not taking it, and I think she took it because it was kind of what she's dealing with in her personal life.
Right. And she said she wanted to take it.
Right.
When she goes to hang out with her bestie, Gurami, and the boss, and she's telling them about what happened when she told Junho that she liked him, we get to see what happened after. He said that he liked her too, and she just ran off. She was scared, so she ran away. I forget why, but they had the joke where the guy, the boss, he picks up like a thing of broccoli. He's like, hello, is this 911? 911 of love.
Oh, Harry Boss?
Yeah, it's Harry Boss. Oh, I forgot to mention in the last episode, because Soo-young came to work looking fly as hell, and she's like, I'm going to go find a man. I'm going to be aggressive and all this stuff. Wu got it into her head that she was going to hook them up.
Yep.
The boss and Soo-young. Okay, so, there's a really sweet scene where they're walking home because they decide that they're going to date. They're going to go on a few dates before they commit to being a couple. And in preparation, Wu has a full document of things to do on dates. Yes. Color-coded, highlighted. It's beautiful. It is a work of art. She is a woman after my own heart. And Junho is like, is there walking you home is not on this list? So they talk about holding hands, and she says that it's really hard for her to do, and that if she is forced to do it, like, it gets to the point where she physically can't take it anymore. She has to stop. And so she said she learned, like with her dad, the longest she's been able to do it is 57 seconds. So they go to hold hands, and she puts her phone, but she only lasts like 20-something seconds.
I like to think it was because she was extra nervous.
Yeah. Probably.
And the fact that she put a timer on it.
That's so cute. She pulls out her phone. So this case is really interesting in that I remember it kind of confusing me. And I guess we could just talk about all of it.
I don't know. It was confusing. I mean, I felt like in a way, I saw both sides.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's like So the girl, God, I freaking didn't write her name down either. I be so in these episodes that I forget to take notes sometimes. Like, I don't have a lot of notes for this episode because I was just watching.
I just want to say, I remember you brought me in to watch a scene from this episode a while ago when you were watching it for the first time. It was the scene of them talking, Wu and the girl talking outside of
Barista Cafe.
the
Do you know
cafe.
why?
To ask me if I recognize her.
Yes.
But also, like, you explained they both have autism, and they're both having this loud conversation
Yes.
on the street.
Yes. it wasn't sexual assault. He didn't sexual assault me. Are you sure he didn't sexually assault you? And Junho was like, if y'all don't take this shit down a decibel or two, we are in public. They gonna think you talking about me. But yeah, the actress playing the girl who they are saying has been taken advantage of was in All of Us Are Dead. She's the girl who was bullied and then she's bullied. That's all I will say. If it's a K-drama, it's a zombie K-drama. It is excellent. We covered it on the podcast. It's on Netflix and it's coming back for a second season. I highly recommend it. But she's in it and I won't spoil anything just in case. So, but yeah, okay. So her thing was she wanted to talk to Woo alone. Okay. Let me stop. The guy who's accused, they found out that he volunteered at a place for folks with autism, like a center.
I thought it was just random special needs.
Special needs.
Yeah.
And they found out that he was dating a girl with special needs a year ago. And that her parents found out, a different girl. And that he got in trouble. Place. Right. Because the parents felt, got her to, he got her to get a credit card in her name first, and then used it to pay for all of their dates together, motels and stuff like that. And he avoided jail time because he just paid the family back. So it just looks like he has a pattern of doing that. He is saying, I don't know how to argue or present what he's saying, because it felt like what he was saying was they're girls, they're attractive, they're innocent and they love, and why wouldn't, like, he was offended that people would question if it's real because they're special needs. And then he's like, she's well off, for the other girl. He was like, she was well off and could afford to do it, so he didn't see it as taking advantage. But then when you talk to the current girl that he is being accused of raping, and she is like, Wu was like, he looks sketchy, sis. Like, on paper, he looks like a gigolo, a player. And she said, yeah. And she's like, yeah, but I still love him. And, I mean, that's the rub, though, right? Where they're essentially arguing, is she mentally sound enough to knowingly make a bad decision? And they're saying, no, she's not. She's saying, yes, I am. Like, I can see what he is. She's like, I just want to get laid, too. I'm having fun now, too. And it's like, that's where it's like, the both's not complicated, confusing, because it's like, at some point, why are we not trusting her or Wu to tell you, oh, no, I get it. I get that I can be tricked. Like, Wu has a really good understanding of her situation and how it affects her life and what she needs to be careful of. With this girl, I'm not so sure, but she sounded like it.
But she couldn't
but
say
she's
that
definitely
when she was on stand.
more
That was the issue.
Emotionally immature than Wu
they
is, too.
She's like maturity of like a 6th grader.
Yeah. And so then I guess in that, then legally you can't. Legally, you can't take her, because it's the same reason why legally Jack, our 14-year-old son, can't go out there and say, well, this is what I think, and I'm going to do it, and it's fine. And we're like, yeah, no, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Because you're too young.
Because you're too young. You may change your mind. Like, it's the reason we don't let children make important decisions like that. So I guess, even though she feels as though she understands what she's doing, if she is legally... what's the word I'm looking for? Legally determined to be mentally a child, then you can't.
And that's where, like, this is where it got real interesting, because I think they even said she was 24.
27.
She's the same age as Wu.
Oh, she was the same age as Wu. So, and that's where Wu took it personal, because Wu's like, here I am, I can make my own decisions. I'm out here have a job and stuff like this. I have autism. You have autism. Why can't you have the same kind of be in love and make the same type of decisions I made? And
she kind of applies it to herself later, where she's like, after the case, he goes to jail, she's talking to Junho, and she's like, it makes her feel like it doesn't matter what I say, because if I say it's love, but somebody else says it's not, then it's not.
Right.
And I think it is a little bit different for her because I think people would look and say, well, you're an attorney and you make decisions and you're more emotionally and
that's where
mature.
when the mother got into her face after the thing.
Yeah, she did.
That was the same thing. Like, hey, you might have autism and all that, but it's not the same.
So that's why I asked you guys when we were watching it, and he was like pleading his case. And I think this might have been after it came out that he had dated a girl with special needs before. If you believed him, and y'all were both like, yeah, I do. So at the end of it, I don't know what to think. Like, how do you think he was genuine?
Yeah, I still do.
You think he had like a fetish? Like he purposely went out
I
seeking?
do think he had a fetish. Well, but I don't know if you want to call it a fetish or if it's just he understands.
I know what you're going to say. But that's kind of like, because it's just icky because...
You compared it to having a boyfriend and finding out he's only dated black
if you're a black girl, and I've been through this, and you date... Oh, you go out, and if you interracially date, it inevitably comes up. It may not be the first date, but it's going to come up. It's like, is this the first time you've dated outside of your race? It comes up. And it is a huge red flag when, if someone says no, then it's like, okay, whatever. This will be an experience. If they say, oh yeah, I've dated Chinese girls and, Mexican, black, whatever. But if they're like, yeah, I only date black girls, that's a problem. Because why? Mm-hmm. Why? That's... Why?
Yeah. No, I get
that's
that.
gross. That's a fetish. But like when he says things like they deserve love, or I'm trying to think of a way to say it without being offensive that makes me feel like he's being offensive. It feels like you're saying, because honestly, I would question. It's not like is anything wrong with being attracted to someone on the spectrum or with needs, right? Like Junho, we're like rooting for him. We're all about it. But we see we've seen him now through 10 episodes give it careful consideration and like understanding like what the problems could be before he goes into it. With this guy, I would wonder at some point, do you only date women like this because you can't be challenged as much as somebody who is more emotionally mature and on your level in that way? Like, I think that's a fair question. It's like when you wonder why somebody like Leonardo DiCaprio only dates women. He literally, when they turn 25, he dumps them. And like, we all joke about it, but he's like 50. That's disgusting. And you think about why. And I think about the kinds of things that, I became a mother at 24, but before that, from like 20 to 24, you don't know shit. You really don't. And so there's a reason I think that people prey on certain things. And so for me, I don't know. I think I didn't come out of this thinking that he was innocent, but that's interesting.
I don't think he had bad intentions.
So. Yeah, you could still be doing harm without intending it. Yeah.
But I do think they both really loved each other at least.
Yeah, and she loses her shit when he goes to prison, crying in the corner.
Her mom's like, what's wrong?
She's like, he's going to jail. Why are you crying? It's like, Mom, you ain't been paying attention. This girl has been telling you all episodes she loved this raggedy ass boy. And she didn't want him going to jail. We got to talk about the really bad blind date. Soketing. That's what they call it in Korean. Soketing. Between the hairy boss and Soo-young. Why did he do this? Is that his thing? Was he just was it nerves?
Yeah.
They should have went on a double date.
Yeah.
It would have been better,
Yeah, I agree. But it was just interesting because he didn't even realize he was doing it, he said. He kept making food puns. Mm-hmm. And she was so like, the first time he did it, she was like, what? Oh.
the bun one I didn't catch the first time, and then because that's where she lives.
And then it was like the banana, and he's like, if you have the banana, will you find me appealing? Oh my God. What would you have done? Would you have sat through the whole date just letting him do that?
Maybe.
Would you have said something?
Probably.
What would you have said?
I'd be like, dude, are you nervous? I'd be like, calm down. Stop making puns. It's okay.
That's a sweet way to do it.
his phone was ringing.
But wait, why did she call him? She needed help making something, right?
Yeah, she was trying to cook because he wasn't there to cook. She was trying to make.
It's like she was in her apartment.
I know, though. That's what I'm saying.
It's like common as she calls him to.
Yes.
Like, how do I make this again?
But he wasn't going to answer it. She's like, "No, answer your phone." And the second he answers it, she pretends her phone. She just picks it up. My apartment's on fire? He's like, no, you don't run to a fire. She goes, I gotta go. She goes, no, you don't run to the fire.
I mean, you gotta go regardless if you find out your place is on fire, though.
Oh my god, that's hilarious. So another thing that happens in this episode is Kwon meets with the lawyer who tells him that Woo is Sumin's daughter. So then Kwon later goes out to dinner with a colleague, an older colleague, another attorney who he knows went to law school with them or went to college with them.
Oh, you mean the reporter told him?
Yeah, the reporter told Kwon, and then Kwon meets up with the colleague, an older...
and starts questioning him.
And then that guy was like, here, how you...
Let me just...
I'm not remembering 27-year-old T. I'm just not.
The whole Kwon with the reporter thing was funny because Kwon thought he knew stuff.
Yes.
And the reporter, he's like, wait, what? It's just like, he's like, more dirt.
Yes. Donnie said
he was going to get that hoodie and go back to the cafe.
I love that everybody knows he did it, though. It's like you really thought you was doing something. So there's two things to talk about, and then we're done. Sunmi, the mom, visited the dad, and we saw. First of all, let me tell you something about this bitch.
I was not expecting this conversation to go like this.
Listen, I absolutely
so full of herself.
I forgot. I legit forgot that this is what first of all, I forgot that this happened. So when we watched the last episode and she showed up at the end, I was like, oh shit. And I didn't remember what happened. Then we went through this whole episode and I forgot that was the stinger. So when they went back to it for the stinger of this episode or towards the end of this episode, I was like, oh yeah. I forgot what a bitch she was because she basically sat down. First of all, she called him Sonbae, which is like her, close friend, colleague, peer. And I was like, sis, he been raising your kid for 30 years. Like, come on now. But anyway, she pulls out this folder, and it's Taeson. Yes, Taeson. Her law firm has a Boston office, and she wants to send Woo there and him. Mm-hmm. So you want this man to close his business and then just go what? She was going to pay him to just go to the States, provide him money every month to take care. Is that what she offered? Or was he supposed to just go there and find the job? Because, bitch, what are we talking? Because if I said yes to that, you were giving me a salary.
There's so many things wrong with this because you can't just go to Boston and you've got to learn English.
Well, no. Because that's the way. Well, the difference is that she would get. It would be like a working visa, and that company Taeson pays for it.
But so for him, he couldn't do anything.
They would have to sponsor his visa,
right? But he couldn't.
As her
it'd
relative,
be hard for him to go out and get a job and be able to speak English in America.
I'm sorry, I thought we were talking about.
No, I'm just
for the dad.
Surviving in Boston would be very tough.
She don't give a fuck about his comfort. She didn't give. She wasn't thinking all of that.
She wants her. And that's it's going to fuck her up because this other guy, not knowing he thinks he's going to fuck over Woo, he's going to end up fucking over this lady.
Mm-hmm. But the other thing is that she brings up how America has way more help and programs and stuff for folks with autism.
Mm-hmm. I feel like there's at one point where she was like, they have a way to treat autism.
Yes.
Like she was talking about there's a way to cure it.
Interesting.
At this point, she's 27. And she's
I don't know.
She's grown up, and he's helped her and stuff like that.
She's down at 30,
right? If there was any time to work with somebody with autism, it's in their younger when they're a kid,
right?
So but they know how to develop to grow up to get an adult. But once you're an adult, it's hard to learn and change,
unlearn things, yeah. But what I think is interesting, like what Kaylee said, was that she was almost talking about it as if she could be cured.
No.
And what's interesting to me is that but I do wonder, and I don't have experience with it, because she was treatments and stuff. And he was like, I got her all the treatments she needed.
Yeah.
And he basically almost plainly said, right, like, she doesn't need treatment. Like,
she's fine.
Yeah.
she's fine. And I wonder if, I hadn't considered it this way, so I'm glad Kaylee said it, if in her mind, because she doesn't know, she thinks that those things can be cured. And the reason that they weren't is because, and remember, then she looks around the restaurant like, really? Because maybe the best that you could do wasn't enough. Like, she didn't, that if she had better care, she wouldn't have the still, I guess, visible tics that she has now. Like the thing with her fingers and stuff. But it's interesting because I don't know, her saying it is offensive for all the reasons that we've talked about. And it's her mother and all that. And it's not even her fucking place to come in there questioning and fuck you. I was so... Ugh. Anyway. But I do wonder, and I don't know enough, is that something not that can be cured, but they can learn ways to manage things. For instance, she's in love with this guy or falling in love with this guy. She wants to be able to hold his hand. She tried it on her own and was like, yeah, no, I can only last. But is there something... Is that a part of it? Like, do you get therapy where you come up with coping things where, if you want to, right? Because maybe she went 27 years. She's like, I don't want to hold nobody's hand. What I want to hold. But now she's in love and she's like, okay, maybe this would be nice.
Right.
Is there something that she could, even if it's something silly, like while you're doing it, you recite something in your head. Yeah. And that's more like a compromise, right? Because it's something you're doing because it makes you closer to the person you care about, but you have to... You're still doing something to deal with doing that for them. It's, it's like the compromises you make in a relationship. So I feel like coming from her, it's offensive, but I do wonder if there are things like, because we see her stopping herself from, like, when she introduces herself. She doesn't always do the palindrome thing. But when she doesn't, it's because she, she's holding it in. But yeah, so what really pissed me off is when he wouldn't take the folder from her and she sat it on his food because he was preparing like some veggies or some shit. And I was like, this is so nasty, sis. And then when she walked, then she was like, are you doing this to get back? Are you in so-and-so?
She accused him of coming up with this 30-year-long plan of trying to get back at her. And he's just like, no.
Yeah, I paid for law school just to fuck with you. Been folding kimbap all fucking day for 30 goddamn years just to fuck with you. But also she wasn't 100% wrong because homegirl did hire Wu to fuck with her.
Yeah, but it wasn't his idea.
Yeah, it wasn't his idea. But then he did allow it to happen once he knew. Yeah, he was like, all right, I'm going to be a shitty dad for this because she needs this job.
But even then, it wasn't because of her.
No, you're right. It's just, yeah, exactly. The Hun put him in that position. But she got in her little feelings and walked out, and then he threw all them greens on. I know they weren't collard greens, but I'm gonna call them collard greens.
He threw it on the floor before she left.
Did he? I know when she walked in,
he was holding a knife.
He was holding a knife when she walked in, and he dropped it in shock. And I was like, that probably saved her life. Because I'm gonna tell you what, if it had been me and that bitch walked in there talking all that shit, and I still happen to have that knife in my hand, a problem might have occurred. You can't just be saying shit to people. But then the final thing that happens is the kiss. Wu walks Junho home. And he invites her in. And she's like, no, thank you. She's like, okay, I'm going to head home now. He's like, okay, well, then I'll walk you home. And she's like, no, I walked you home. And I love that because that's how her brain works. She's like, I walked you home. Now I'm going to go home. Why would we walk me home? Like, that's ridiculous and inefficient.
I mean, it is.
Yeah, it is. She was ready. But, so you can see, like, he steps forward, like, he wants to kiss her, and she steps back.
He's done this a couple times.
Right, he he did it in the office, where it's like he tests to see, but then if she backs up, then he's just like... But then this time, she steps forward, and she kisses him first. And I love that. I love that.
I was expecting it.
I love that she took the initiative, and then she was just like, are our teeth supposed to touch? He's like, nah, sis, you gotta open your mouth a little bit more, close your eyes.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know that she kept her eyes open the first
She didn't know, baby girl. Baby girl didn't know. And then they kissed again, and it was really sweet. And I really thought Quan was gonna walk up, but he didn't.
I'm like both looking forward to it and also not looking forward to him finding out.
I mean, the fact that we didn't talk about it, but like when they ran into his friends, and and I love how he's like, yeah, I'm on a date with her, like, and I'll introduce her, but then later on when they go, he's out drinking with his,
so
he's out drinking with the same friends, then a few more of them. And one of them starts acting like an asshole. Like, why are you with her? He
says, I did it before. It's pity or something. He
said it's not love. You just
you feel sorry for them or something like that. And I was just like, oh my god.
The entire time he's just staring. Like first he does a slow turn to look at him, and then he just stares at him the entire time, and then he finally just like
the whole time.
Yes,
like the temperature just slowly going up.
And that's funny because the guy just kept talking like he didn't even know his life was in danger.
And it was so funny because there was one guy who just didn't know what they were talking about the entire time. He's so drunk. He's like, "Who are we talking about again?"
Why are they fighting? So that's it, you guys. Predictions? Anything?
I think Juan's gonna break that story, but it's gonna hurt. The mother is gonna hurt. Woo.
Interesting.
I hope Quan dies.
Oh my god.
No, I'm kidding.
Look, Nico doesn't like that. That's being mean. Okay, stop.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Anyway, we're done. Why are you wishing death on Quan? I mean, I get it though. Oh, it's okay, Nico. Relax. So that's it, you guys. We put to bed another 2 episodes of Extraordinary Attorney Wu because he thinks I'm talking to him. We'll be back next week to talk about the next 2 episodes, 11 and 12. Super excited because number 11 is one of my favorite ones.
You mentioned that before we watched this.
I know, I love it so much. It's just shit that happens, and I was just sitting there the whole time like, holy shit, this is happening. Nico. Anyway, we'll talk to you guys next time.